Wow. Hey, much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Yeah, pure life. Pura vida. Thanks for tuning in once again. Appreciate you guys making the time to be here. Today, we're just going to go ahead and continue this series, Africans not from Africa. And again, we're not doing this to hate or try to make people, not who they are. It's just so you can have a better understanding of real history, real migrations, real genealogy, real chronicles, real oral traditions. Okay? A lot of people in the continent of Africa their ancestors originated outside of Africa and they came into Africa. That's what we've been doing in this series. Today, we're going to continue with the Fulani people, right? And again, we had the Fulani brother on. It was a great time, a lot of knowledge when it comes to the other people that are not Fulani. But, history, again, guys, with all respect, history is not biased. People tend to be biased. And, when we want to talk about the complete truth, we want to talk about everybody. We're not just trying to pick sides here. And, what I'm seeing in the research and even in their own traditions, the Fulani people's oral traditions, they came from somewhere else, not original to Africa. Okay, so remember, some of the oldest groups in Africa are the Khoisan, the Pygmy people, and the Berbers. They're like the oldest, So when we're studying other tribes, other nations, there is a tradition of them coming into Africa, and there is historical records and chronicles telling you this. We're going to get into a little bit today with the Fulani, okay, just like we've been doing with a lot of these nations in Africa. Fulani very diverse, spread out throughout most of Africa, like they are everywhere, either all the way to Cape Verde, all the way to the east of Africa. So yeah, they are, everywhere, and they have a lot of different looks because people have blended into them, or they have blended or amalgamated with other peoples. But in general, this is the Fulani people here, as you guys can see. This is where you Google, there's a lot more, but this is where you can Google, right? So you guys can see very diverse, very unique, and, again, spread out through a lot of parts of Africa. So we're going to learn a little bit of their history. So first, I just want to read from this website real quick, okay? We're going to get into the historical chronicles, but wanted to go ahead and read from here real quick. FulaniNewsMedia.com is the website, because this is the Fulani people telling you themselves. So this is Fulani News Media again, the origin of the Torodbe, Fulani Part 2. All right, because there's a Part 1, but this is the one we're interested in right here. So again, they got some images of the Fulani, as you guys can see. And we're going to just read a little bit of what it has to say here and how it correlates, right, with other written accounts. It says, it is appropriate here to mention that the Torodbe say about themselves. What they say about themselves, sorry. What do Torodbe say about themselves? Not what I'm saying, okay? Despite the fact that many of the ethnic groups among the Sudanic peoples customarily give fabricated lineages to establish nobility of origin for its people, The significance of examining the Torodbe, Fulbe's view of themselves is to analyze how they construct their identity and how they employ that identity construct for their own survival. Their self-knowledge helps them to return to the idealization of their cultural values, myths, and heroes in order to uphold and reaffirm their collective personality. Okay? So 1 second, just so we can learn a little bit about them. Again, we're just reading some mainstream information just to get to know the people who we're talking about. Believe it or not, guys, a lot of people never heard of the Torodbe or Fulani, or maybe they have, but they don't understand who they are, right? So we're just going over the basics so we can get a deep understanding. So Torodbe in Wikipedia, right? Said the Torodbe, singular, Torodo, also called Turudilla, Banu Toro, Takrut, Toronkawa, were Muslim Tokolid clerics and theocratic monarchs who preached and reigned in Futa Toro, a region located in the north of present-day Senegal and other Fula communities in West Africa from at least the 17th to the early 20th century. Drawn from all ethnicities and levels of society, that Torodbe, all right, so many ethnicities, the Torodbe aimed to purify the Islam practice in West Africa and establish Islamic states run with Islamic law. The Torodbe originated in Futa Toro, a strip of agricultural land along the Senegal River. That's what their mainstream, out of Africa biased theories, right? Yeah, they had a stronghold there, right? When they arrived from somewhere else, that's where the stronghold was, right? And at that time, the state of Takur, from as early as the 9th to the late of the 13th century, later spreading throughout the Fulbe territories, all right? Fulbe territory, so Takur. So again, Futa Toro, often simply the Futa, is a semi-desert region around the middle run of the Senegal River. All right, so you guys can have a reference. This region along the border of the Senegal and Mauritania is historically significant as the center of the several Fulani states, all right, and a source of jihad armies and migrants to the Futa de Jalon. The word Futa is a general name for the Fulbe gave to any area, or that the Fulbe gave to any area they lived in, while Toro was the actual identity of the region for its inhabitants, likely derived from an ancient kingdom of Takrut, likely, but we're going to see that goes even back to the Torodo from Yemen. You guys will see. The people of the area mostly speak Fular, a dialect of the Fula language that spans West Africa from Senegal to Cameroon. They identified themselves with the language giving rise to the name Halpularing, meaning those who speak Pular. The Halpular are also known as Tukulers, a name also derived of Takur. Okay, so Takur. So Trakur, right? Says here successor states to the Ghana Empire. Trakur, see right here on the left. Trakur, Tekrur or Tekrur, was a state based in the Senegal River Valley in modern-day Mauritania and northern Senegal, which was at its height in the 11th and 12th centuries, roughly parallel to the Ghana Empire. It lasted some form into the 18th century, right? 1700s. There are a number of, so it says origin, right? There are a number of conflicting theories about the deep past of the Senegal River Valley, where the kingdom of Trakur would take root. The formation of the state may have taken place as an influx of Fulani from the east, settled in the Senegal Valley. So Fula people, the Fula, Fulani, or Fulbe people are an ethnic group in Sahara, Sahel, and West Africa, widely dispersed across the region. Inhabiting many countries, they live mainly in West Africa and northern parts of Central Africa, South Sudan, Darfur, and regions near the Red Sea coast in Sudan. The approximate number of Fula people is unknown due to the clashing definitions regarding Fula ethnicity. Various estimates put the figure between 25 and 40 million people worldwide. Wow. A significant proportion of the Fula, a third or an estimated 7 to 10 million, are pastoralists, and their ethnic group has the largest nomadic pastoral community in the world. The majority of the Fula ethnic group consisted of semi-sedentary people, as well as sedentary settled farmers, scholars, artisans, merchants, and nobility. As an ethnic group, they are bound together by the Fula language, their history, and their culture. The Fula are almost completely Muslims, with a tiny minority being Christians and animist. So again, according to mainstream, they kind of want to say they basically started out in West Africa. This is Futa Toro right here. Futa Toro right here, right in West Africa. Literally like almost the same region of Takrur, where they're saying they originated. But what I'm going to show you, even according to their own traditions, right? We're going to keep reading the website. Also, we're going to get into a lot of sources. It says Takrur, it was just one of their, basically the first stronghold in Africa of these people. They were coming from somewhere else. Okay, so Trakur, right? All right, so we're going to keep learning a little bit more of the people and the history. We're going to get into some books now. It says here, The History of Islam in Africa. This is by Nehemiah Leftzion and Randall L. Powells. So on page 12 of this book, in the introduction, just real quick, it says here the post-jihad states, the Fulbe, remember that's what we're talking about, and Somali, who provided the main fighting forces to the holy wars, were able to participate fully in the consummation of the military and political victory by abandoning pastoralism and settling down. The process of sedentarization often was made possible only with the help of slave farming, which freed the pastoralists from their political, religious, and educational pursuits. In Futa Toro, remember, that was one of the strongholds. Anciently, that was Takrur, right? Takrur. In Futa Toro, the Al-Mami Abdul Qadir Khan established mosques, schools, and Qadi courts in the villages. He came into conflict with the powerful regional lords, members of the Fulbe families, who were closer to the older traditions of pastoralism and did not share his commitment to Islam. His death in 1807 marked the end of a strong central government in Futa Toro, but the people of the Futa preserved a strong sense of Islamic identity and commitment to holy war, which was later exploited by Al-Hajjaj Umar. Writing in 1286, all right, this is way old, Ibn Said first noted the distinction between the sedentary Tokolor and the nomad Fulbe, saying that the people of Takrur are divided into two sections, a section who have become sedentary and live in towns, and a section who are nomads in the open country. Beyond that, there is no information about Trakur or Takrur or Futa Toro as the area is known, except for oral traditions that are difficult to interpret. Oral traditions, right, that say they came from somewhere else. But toward the end of the 15th century, Portuguese sources and the chronicles of Timbuktu converged to throw light on a process of state building led by a Fulbe warrior by the name of Tengela. All right, he first created Fulbe state in the Futa Jalon and then moved farther north to Futa Toro. In 1512, after Tengela had been defeated and killed by Songhay army, the conquest of the Futa Toro was accomplished by his son Koli Tengela, who created the Dianang Kobi dynasty of Futa Toro, right? So there's a little bit of history. Let's keep reading. So remember, they mentioned the Timbuktu chronicles, the Timbuktu chronicles of Timbuktu. We're going to get into that. They're going to show you where these people who established Takrur really came from. I'm going to show you. Continue says the term Torodbe, as the clerics of Futa Toro were known, the clerics. So the Torodbe were just a specific type of people. They were the clerics, covered persons of diverse social status and ethnic origins. You see, they weren't all really like the Fulbe pastoral people. Some of them were just, married into, had assimilated with, amalgamated with. They became the clerics or Torodbe. They spoke Fulde and embraced customs of the pastoral Fulbe, but they were sedentaries and not necessarily of Fulbe origin, okay? The maxim Torodbe is a beggar, associated then with the mendicant activities of Muslim clerics and students who lived on charity. The openness of the Torodbe society is expressed in another maxim. If a fisherman pursues learning, he becomes a Torodo. And Futatoro, learning among the Torodbe, was at a lower level compared with the scholarship of their Toronkawa brethren, whom we met later in this chapter in Hausa land. Remember Hausa land, where I got the video on the Hausa? They're also from somewhere else, right? The Torodbe of Futatoro were an integral part of the peasant society, unlike the Toronkawa of Hausa land, who separated themselves from both the Fulbe pastoralists and the Hausa-speaking peasants. Though the Toronkawa lived in rural enclaves, they cultivated an urban tradition of learning. Okay, so you see, not all the same people, but they all did become so-called Fulani eventually. Says here, all the jihad movements, right? We're talking about jihad, holy wars, right? They were very important role. They had an important role in these holy wars, the Fulani or Fulbe, for Fulbe-speaking groups. It says all the jihad movements were carried by Fulbe-speaking groups, Fulbe pastoralists, under the leadership of Torodbe, Toro, Tuur, or Toronkawa scholars, the clerics. Their role should be viewed in the wider context of the expansion of Islam from town to countryside. They had a major role in expanding Islam in Africa. It is significant that all leaders of the jihad movement in West Africa came from the countryside and not from commercial or capital towns. The challenge to the marginal role of Islam in African societies could not have come from those benefited from the existing political order, neither from traders who were protected by the rulers, nor from clerics who rendered religious services in the chiefly courts, all right? So when it comes to West African Muslim scholars, right, it says that the most prominent scholars and leaders were Fulbe. And over this period, they reconstructed their own ethnic identity to fit the dominant role they were playing, or at least thought they were playing, in the Islamization of the region, okay? The beginning of the Imamate or Al-Mamate of Futa Jalon lie apparently in the growth and population and wealth of a Muslim Fulbe community with roots in agriculture and pastoralism, and its increasing conflict with the Jalonki ruling elites and other groups. With support from a Muslim Malinke kingdom to the east, the Fulbe waged a long struggle over about 50 years. They established their control by about 1780. Two members of the Fulbe family, Ibrahima Sori and Karamoko Alpha Bari, provided the key leadership. They were the progenitors of the Sorija and Al-Faya houses that took the title of Al-Mami and alternated in power from the late 18th to the late 19th century, all right? All right, I just wanted you guys to understand how much influence these people had that spread in Islam, become Muslim scholars, very famous ones and leaders, right? It says here, History of Islam in West Africa by J. Spencer Trimmingham. That the most important kingdom in the Senegal was that of Trakur, all right, whose people were ancestors of the Tokolod. So these Trakur, Tokolor, Torodbe, these are all the same. Its formation may go back to the beginning of the Christian era. It occupied both banks of the Senegal. From the 9th to 10th centuries, it was ruled by the dynasty Fulbe, which came from the Huat Bia Tajant and were known as Dija Ogo. But from the end of the 10th to the 13th centuries, it was a semi-independent dependency of the Soninke kingdom of Diara in the Sahel. The influence of these Negroes of Trakur, formed through the mixture of many ethnic groups, has been far more important than their actual numbers and political instability would make appear. Their language, through being adopted by the Fulbe nomads, has spread from the Atlantic to Darfur. Also, since they were the first Negroes converted to Islam, thus to hijack, they brought Islam. They are Islam. Those guys see. We're going to get to all that. There have been missionaries extending it among Wolof, Susu, Mandinka groups, Fulbe, Hausa, and Kanuri. When Tokolod or Torodbe, right? Torodbe, Fulani is supposed to be Torodbe, began their jihads, right? The jihads. It was always in those parts where they hoped to find allies in the Fulbe. Though their hopes have not always been justified, for in Trakur proper and in Mt Sinai, they had no more bitter enemies than the Fulbe. So I thought that Torodbe were the Fulbe. You see how they're like separating again here a little bit. Eventually, these people did kind of mix and assimilate, and the Torodbe was a Fulbe. Eventually, I was reading it earlier, right? Tokolor have conducted widely celebrated Islamic schools to which many strangers came for legal training. Those who settled became naturalized Torodbe, but others returned to their homeland to extend their knowledge of Islam. So real quick, in the footnotes, I just want to read this, guys. It says Torodbe, right here. Sing. Torodo, medicant or mendicant, is derived from torade, to beseech a favor, used of intercessory prayer to God, not to perform the ritual prayer, which is diualde. In Nigeria, Torodbe is often confounded with torankobe, right? Sing toranki. It merely means any immigrant from Futa Toro, any immigrant, whether they're Fulani or not. The Muslim party which triumphed over the pagan Fulbe was designated by this name, Torodbe. Look at that. The Muslim party which triumphed over the pagan Fulbe. All right? They weren't the same people. Was designated by this name, Torodbe. And it has become the equivalent of Tokolor. Whilst in the Senegal, Yankee, the name for the pagan Fulbe influx under Koli, has become equivalent to Fulbe or Dabi, the Teyedo or warrior party, as opposed to the clerical party, right? The Torodbe is the clerical party. There's here General History of Africa, Volume 6, Africa in the 19th Century until the 1880s, editor J.F. Aid Ayagi. There's one fascinating feature of these Islamic revolutions, apart from that of Samori, was that they were led by the Torodbe. The clerical wing of the Fulbe, Fulani, old people who were found living across the whole of the Western Sudan. The revolutions were thus the answer of the Torodbe or Fulani Muslim clerics to the crisis created in the Western Sudan by political oppression, social injustice, and illegal taxation on the one hand, and the decline and weakening of Islam on the other. Okay, again, letting you know who was really, a part of, a major part of these holy wars, right? There's here again, Bilal al-Sudan represented an area of tremendous human mobility and population mixing, exemplified by the spread of the Fulbe or Fulani of Peu, whose original homeland was in Futa Toro, all right, over a wide canvas extending from Lake Chad and the Cameroon in the east to the Atlantic Ocean in the west. It was the region where great states and empires rose and fell, a region that represented the earliest Dar al-Islam, abode of Islam in West Africa. Okay, there's for a reason for that, guys. The Jihad leaders trace their roots back to the holiest region in Bilal al-Sudan, the celebrated Takur, Futa Toro, all right? That's the stronghold, Trakur, all right? Who was the people that founded Trakur? We're about to read that. Were the earliest Islamic state in West Africa. It's said to have emerged, all right? That's where it all began, the Islam in West Africa. Most important is that they all belong to that society of ulama, scholars known as the Torodbe, We the Torodbe. J.R. Willis informs us that the Torodbe were an eclectic group of Muslims drawn from diverse ethnic groups throughout the Western and Central Sudan. Torodbe society, he adds, comprised groups of individuals of Fulbe, Wolof, Mande, Hausa Berber, slave and caste origin, all right? So the Torodbe society eventually had all these people. It wasn't just Fulbe or Fulani people, right, coming from somewhere else. Nevertheless, the Torodbe were identified with the Fulbe. Either way, all the Torodbe were basically called Fulbe. They spoke the Fulbe language, Fulfulde, intermarried with them, and accompanied the Fulbe in their endless migrations, all right, throughout the Western Sudan. Torodbe became synonymous with Fulbe, okay? Torodbe became synonymous with Fulbe. In fact, the Torodbe constituted the scholarly faction of the Fulbe. So again, guys, Trakur, right? Trakur, that's where these Fulbe, Fulani, Torodbe people coming from, right? And again, Trakur was a state based in the Senegal River Valley in modern-day Mauritania and northern Senegal, which was its height in the 11th and 12th centuries. We're talking about Middle Ages, okay? Historical era, Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, somebody is coming here. Again, many names for these people used in other languages to refer to the Fulbe, right? Fulani in English is borrowed from the Hausa term. Fula from the Manding languages is also used in English, and sometimes spelled Fula or Fula. Fula and Fulani are commonly used in English, including within Africa. The French borrowed the Wolof term Pel, which is variously spelled Peul or Peul, and even Peul. More recently, the Fulfulde, Fulard term Fulbe, which is a plural noun singular of Fulo, has been anglicized as Fulbe, which is gaining popularity in use. In Portuguese, the terms Fula or Futa, Fula are used. The term falata, falata, or felata are of Arabic origin and are often the ethonyms of which Fulani people are identified by in parts of Chad and Sudan, okay? So again, Torodbe, right? The Torodbe, or singular Torodo, right? Torodo, Turidaya, Banu, Toro, Ta, Krud, Torokawa were Muslim, Tukular clerics and theocratic monarchs and priests and reign of Futatoro, right? The stronghold of this Islam, right? So Tukuled people, huh? Tukuled people. What does all this mean? This says also called Halmpular, or a West African ethnic group native to the Futatoro, right? So these are where the Fulani were had their stronghold, right? There are smaller communities in Mali and Mauritania. The Tukular were Islamicized in the 11th century. That's when they got there. When a lot of these people got there in the Middle Ages. The early and strong Islamic heritage, which is seen as a defining feature, is a matter of great pride for them. They were among the first Muslims in the area that became Senegal. Why? Why were they the first Muslims? Because they were Muslims. They were influential in the spread of Islam to West Africa in medieval era. It says according to the oral traditions of the Tokulerd, oral traditions, what they say about themselves, right? Tokulers are descendants of Sered and Fula ancestors. All right, Fula, right? The Fula people. The Fula, Fulani, or Fulbe people are an ethnic group in Sahara, Sahel, and West Africa, widely dispersed across the region, all right? Fulani, Fulbe. Continuing says, Sankori Institute of Islamic African Studies International, okay? The autobiography of Alpha Umar ibn Sayyid Turudi as anthropological evidence of the rights for self-determination for enslaved African Muslims, right? So they get into the whole slave narrative, after, but the history of what he's talking about, the origin of these people is what we're here for, and he's got great sources for that, okay? It says here, for more than 9 centuries, the Torodbe, Fulbe, have been the purveyors of social reform and nation formation throughout the entire region of the Bilad es-Sudan. What we mean by the Bilal Sudan are those lands that lie between the Atlantic Ocean and the Red Sea. And what is between the beginning of the Sahel savanna lands below the Sahara until the beginning of the tropical forests. However, the origin of the Fulbe clan have been cast in a veil of mystery, mainly due to the diverse opinions among ancient and contemporary scholars concerning them. Furthermore, the various names given to these people do nothing to remove this enigma. For example, Trakur, right? Just like the ancient land or place they came from, right there in Senegal, West Africa, Tukulod, Turunkawa, and Torodbe. Sing Turudi are all names referring to one people. The Arab historians refer to them as Takrudi, in spite of the fact that this cognomen today refers to every black from West Africa. In Francophone West Africa, the Wolof called them Tukulod. Among the Hausa-speaking people, they are called Turunkawa. However, the Fulbe refer to themselves as Torodbe in their own language, or Turudija in Arabic. The last 2 cognomens are how they are known among the rest of the Fulani clans as well. What is key here is that this Torodbe Fulbe clan, all right, so it's a clan of the Fulbe or Fulani Turbe, played a key role as leaders of religion and purveyors of intellectual reform throughout the regions of Africa known as the Bilad Sudan. The comprehension of this function played by the Torodbe is a sine qua non to an understanding and apprehension of movements and events in the Bilad Sudan, especially during the 19th century. Having said this, it is fitting here to mention what the Torodbe say about themselves, okay? What do they say about themselves? Despite the fact that many of the ethnic groups among Sudanic peoples customarily give fabricated lineages to establish nobility of origin for its people. All right, so doesn't this sound familiar? I read this earlier on this website, Fulani News Media. This is where they're getting their stuff from, actually, guys. So I went right to the original source. Okay, that's what we're reading right now. So, trying to give themselves an ability origin, huh? The significance of examining the Torodbe's Fulbe's view of themselves is to analyze how they construct their identity and how they employ that identity construct for their own survival. Their self-knowledge helps them to return to the idealization of their cultural values, myths, and heroes in order to uphold and reaffirm their collective personality. Wasiri Junaid ibn Muhammad al-Bukhari, drawing from earlier sources of the origin of the Fulbe. All right, here we go. We're about to get into a little deeper now. Combines them into a synthesis of opinion. He said regarding their origin, it is said that the origin of the Torodbe are from the Jews. What Jews? It is said that they are from the Christians. What Christians? It is said that they are from the Bambara, from among the Sudanese who came and settled between the Nile and Euphrates rivers. It is said that they are from a band of the Banu Israel, who relocated from the region of Sinai to the lands of Tuur. Tuur, we're going to see. Watch, is going to tell you right now. It is for this reason they are called Torodbe. Torodbe Tuur. Tuur. Tuur is a land in the western part of Yemen. Okay, here we go again. Coming from Yemen, huh? The most sound opinion is that they are the descendants of Arum, Ibn Esau, Ibn Ishaq, Ibn Ibrahim. So basically, they are the son of Rum, the son of Esau, who is the son of Isaac, who is the son of Abraham. Upon them be peace. They settled near the meeting of two seas. Okay, guys hear that? So let's keep going. Let's see what it said before we, draw any conclusion. It says, though some contemporary scholars dispute the above account, yet John Willis points out this needs not be taken as a fatal objection to their claims of Arabic ancestry, or even for that matter, Hebrew ancestry. As well, here in this context that Torodbe traces their lineage and origins back through the two sacred communities, the Jews and the Christians, and then on the sacred covenant of Abraham, the father of the people of the book. This is significant because the narrative of the covenant, the promise, and the return becomes a motivating factor in the self-image of the Torodbe. So picture this, guys, right? So they spread in Islam. They're really deep into they want the leaders in the jihads. So this identity construct becomes what Ibn Khaldun would call the point of solidarity, asabiya, that binds the Torodbe and provides them with a philosophy in their historical consciousness. It gives them their reason for being what Nietzsche would call the will to power. Abdullahi Dan Fuduye places Torodbe genesis deep within the ethos of the Bani Israel when he said, the origin of the entire Fulatiyan or Fulbe people, right? Ethnicity comes from the geographical area of Mount Sinai. Tuur, Sinai. So Tuur, right? That's in Yemen, right? They thereafter persisted in migrating from place to place until they reached the lands of the far west, Aqsa al-Maghrib, and to the lands that Allah Ta'ala had willed for them to reach. This positing of the Torodbe in the sacred mount where the Torah was originally revealed to Prophet Musa or Moses, Mount Sinai. So what are you saying, before they came out of ancient America, Mount Sinai provides them with the mechanism for organizing their collective experience around the Creator and infuses them with divine purpose and destiny. So remember, Mount Sinai is a volcano. If you didn't know, go read the scripture again and you could see what happened. It literally blew up like a volcano, Mount Sinai. So it says this cohesive self-image will be played out repeatedly throughout the long history of the Torodbe in every region of Africa where they settled. This concept will reemerge again among the enslaved descendants of the Torodbe in the America. Okay, so that part tries to hijack. Where's your source on that? Building on the Abrahamic line signification, Abdullahi Dan Fuduye traces the Torodbe to Ar-Rum, listen, who was a descendant of both Isaac and Ishmael, right? Isaac and Ishmael. So these people, these Torodbe, he's saying they go all the way back. They can trace back to a descendant of, Isaac and Ishmael were both sides of Abraham's sons, right? These are Abraham's sons, right? The two sons of Abraham, thus assuring for his ethnicity a complete fulfillment of the covenant given by the Creator to Abraham. Abdullah, he says, so let's see what he's saying. You also know that this Ar-Rum is the son of Esau, the son of Isaac or Isaac, right? Saxon, Saxon, yeah, this is a Saxon, and son of Ibrahim. Upon them be peace. So they're saying they descend from this guy Ar-Rum, who is a son of Esau, okay? So that would be a nephew of Jacob. His mother was Nasmat. So who's the mother? So we got a male who's the son of Esau, and then the mother was Nasmat, the daughter of Ishmael. Ibn Ibrahim, upon him be peace. So he had a Semitic dad, so-called Hebrew, because it's coming out of Abraham, right? We're talking about Esau, the twin brother of Jacob, but not a white man, guys. Break out of that. We're talking about Esau had a son, and that son was married to a daughter of his uncle, Ishmael, a daughter of his uncle. So a cousin, like a second cousin. So what they're saying is that the Fulbe and their legends, they can just go back and trace at least one part of them to a son of Esau and his marriage with a daughter of Ishmael. So we got both nations of Abraham here, right? So that's kind of deep, guys. Now picture that and why they are so important in spreading Islam, right? And how proud they are of it. Let's keep reading. Dun Nasibin said in his Kitab Tanwir, Ishmael fathered 12 boys and 1 girl, and it was from his descendants that all the Arabs descended. Really? What about Joktan, the pure Arabs, right? Jarub, where the Yoruba come from. We're talking about the pure Arabs, right? Yeah, eventually these people mixed with Ishmaelites and Abrahamic descendants, right? And creating, these Arabs, what they call, right, today. When Ishmael approached death, he bequeathed to his brother Isaac that his son Esau should be married to his daughter, and from their marriage, Ar-Rum was born. Ar-Rum was yellowish in color, for which reason his children were called the Banu al-Asfar. It is interesting to note that the Torodbe traced their lineage to 2 sons whose birthright has been in question. One being Ishmael, the firstborn son of Abraham, and the African Nubian woman Hagar, right? Who says she's African? That's the hijack. See, a little bias there. Hagar. And the other was Esau, the grandson of Abraham, through his second-born son, Isaac. So according to the Bible, Esau, the firstborn of Isaac, first had his birthright taken by his younger brother, Jacob. You guys know the whole story, right? What happened? Most High knows what he's doing when he gives the blessing, right, to somebody. Then through the deception, their mother, Jacob, was able to attain the blessing that was destined for Esau. All right, so you guys know that, right? Like, Esau was born first. He was supposed to get the blessing, and he didn't, right? They gave it to Jacob. Jacob is the progenitor of the Israelites. Jacob is Israel after he wrestled the angel. It says Ishmael was the firstborn of Ibrahim. Yet Isaac is said by the Jews to have received the covenant of blessing from his father, right? So same thing happened with Isaac and Ishmael. They gave it to the second-born, Isaac. Ishmael, on the other hand, was overlooked and treated like an unwanted and rejected son. This is significant because it lays the foundation for 2 other identity constructs, right? This is really deep what they're talking about. That of the lost tribe and the rejected stone. The lost tribe referent is a key element in the identity construct for the Bani Israel because it opens the hope of future redemption and affirmation after rejection and spiritual fall of the scattered tribes. The referent of the rejected stone takes its origin from a people who were despised and discarded due to some outward or inward imperfection. Yet the Creator chose them, redeemed them, and made them the cornerstone of a new spiritual world. This signification will be seen throughout history of the Torodbe. especially in the diaspora after the Americas. All right, dodge the hijack with that. See, so this is a little Pan-African guy kind of writing this, and we give him a lot of props for the research he did with the origin of the people, like the real history, not the after modern day added false narratives that all these people were brought to the Americas. Yeah, and that they're trying to make you, the black, so-called black American, all these people. So this signification will be seen throughout the history of Timbuktu. Okay, so this self-image laid the foundation for the individual and collective quest for authenticity among the Torodbe, giving them a common historical experience that provided them with a frame of reference that was stable and continuous. One of my Torodbe teachers in the Republic of the Sudan, Bashir ibn Ahmad ibn Modi Abdu, in his An-Nasab wa Asar, attempted to clarify this discrepancy in the following story when he related the story of the Torodbe, listen, encounter with the armies of the companions of Muhammad. Now, this is where it gets pretty deep, guys. So before we get to this, right? So these Torodbe, right, who are supposed to descend from Esau and the daughter of Ishmael, right? You guys got that? Torodbe, right? Torodbe is supposed to be the Fulbe, right? Fulbe Fulani, right? They're supposed to be your Tuur, right? Before we get to that, let me go to a book real quick, right? We got the Tariq al-Fatash, the Timbuktu Chronicles, right? That's what that is. The Timbuktu Chronicles from 1493 to 1599. What is this? It says some 500 years ago, prior to the infamous European Atlantic slave trade, Askija Muhammad Toure founded the Songhai dynasty of the Askijas, or Songhai Caliphate, which flourished for more than a century in Sahelian West Africa. Askija Muhammad administered his kingdom from the ancient capital of Gao, Mali, although many of his most loyal followers were located in Timbuktu, Mali. So it says the Timbuktu-based scribe and judge Al-Hajjaz Muhammad Khati was a close friend of Askija Muhammad, who accompanied the famous Songhai leader during his well-known pilgrimage to Mecca. The Tariq al-Fatash, this is what we're about to read, is an eyewitness account, we're talking about a primary source, on the rise and fall of the Songhai Empire, told from Khati's perspective as a key participant in many of the most important events in the eras of the Askijas. Okay? Christopher Wise edited this work and along with Hala Abdul Talib translated the Timbuktu Chronicles from Octave Hudas and Maurice de la Fosse's rendition of the Tariq al-Fatash, which was compiled from 3 versions of the text that surfaced in the early 20th century and that were edited by Hudas and de la Fosse in 1913. Okay, Liz, I just wanted you to know what we're about to read, just in case people don't know. This is like a cover of the original. Okay, so real quick, he starts about those 2 characters they were just talking about. So it says here, right, afterwards, the Askija al-Hajjaz Muhammad made preparations to return to his homeland. And when he reached Egypt, he met the Sa'iq Abd al-Rahman al-Suyuti. The Askija asked the Shaykh about the caliphs who were spoken of by the messenger of God. May God bestow his blessing upon him and grant him salvation, and who came after him. The Shaykh replied, there are a total of 12 caliphs, 5 of whom came from Medina, 2 from Cairo, 1 from Syria, okay, and 2 from Iraq. So, guys, this is like the stories of a lot of those other nations, like the Hausa coming from Iraq and all that. That's what they're talking about, okay? All of these caliphs have already reigned. There are only 2 more caliphs to come, both of whom will reign in the land of Trakur. They will reign where? In Trakur. Isn't that where the Fulani supposedly came out of? They're indigenous to that place, the Trakur, huh? You are one of these 2 caliphs. 1 more will come after you. Look, your family hails from the Torodo, right? The Torodo. Again, the Torodbe or Torodo, right? Torodo, also called the Turuya or Trakur. Who's going to reign in Trakur, right? Who preached the reign in Futa Koro. Eventually, this place, the Trakur, became the Futa Toro location, right? You guys remember? Futa Toro, where the Fulani, several Fulani states, and the source of many jihad armies This is like their stronghold, right? The Fula people, that's what they say. Again, the Futa is a general name for the Fulbe gave to any area they lived in. While Toro was the actual identity. Toro, Turu, Torodo. You are from the Torodo people, right? Watch what it's going to say. Likely derived from the ancient kingdom of Trakur. It's the same place, same people, right? So again, going back to the book, the Timbuktu Chronicles, all right? This is from 1493 to 1599. Talking about a primary source, right? He was saying, hey, what's up with these caliphs? Oh, no, yeah, the last two are going to reign in Trakur. Trakur. You are one of those caliphs. Your family hails from Torodo. Torodo, as descendants of the people of Yemen. Yemen. Okay, they came from Yemen. The Torodbe, Trakur, the Torodo, the Fulbe, they came from Yemen. Yemen. The capital of your kingdom will be Gaugao. They went from Yemen, Gaugao and Mali. All these people coming from Yemen, right? They separated their own families and clans, but then they make their own nations in Africa. A lot of them coming from the same origin, though. Same kind of mixture, right? Before they end up in Africa. Again, your family hails from the Torodo as descendants of the people of Yemen. The capital of your kingdom will be Gaugao. So going back to that article, Islamic African Studies, Institute of African Islamic Studies, right? What did it say? It said that these people relocated from the region in Sinai, the lands of Tuur. Tuur, Torodbe, Torodo, Tuur is for this reason they are called Torodbe. Tuur is a land of the western part of Yemen. Again, coming from Esau and his marriage with Ishmael's daughter, right? Coming from Yemen, just like the chronicles of thing is telling us. Let's go back. Now, I just wanted to show you guys that also in this book, the chronicles of Timbuktu, the Timbuktu Chronicles or the Tariq al-Fatah, we're talking about a primary source. We did the video on the Mandinga, and you know, one of their branches, the Wangara, the Gangara, remember the Gangara, where they were all coming from, right? So it says here, the Muslims I heard my master Chamora, God grant him favor, and all that he desired, say that the ancestors of the Songhai, the Wankuri, and the Wangara were all brothers from the same father and same mother. Their father was one of the kings of Yemen. All right, they came from Yemen, who called himself Taras. Ibn Harun, after his death, his brother Jarif, Ibn Harun succeeded the throne. This brother treated his brother's sons in a very harsh manner, so they emigrated from Yemen and journeyed toward the coast of Atlantic Ocean, bringing their women with them. Got it? I just want to show you, confirming the Mandingo stuff, right? Confirming that there is groups coming from Yemen. Again, just like these Fulbe, Torodbe people, right? Fulbe, Torodbe people. Again, your family hails from Torodo as descendants of the people of Yemen, right? You will rule or reign in the land of Trakur. Trakur, okay? So we're back in this book, The Unknown Arabs. Clear definitive proof of the dark complexion of the original Arabs and the Arab origin of the so-called Africans. He puts African Americans, but Africans, right? He's literally proven in this book by Tariq Berry. So we're going to go to a part of this book where it's talking about the Fulani, right? Because that's the subject of today's video. And you're going to see they have a whole other origin story, but watch how we're going to combine it with the other one that we just read about Esau and Ishmael's daughter. So let's see what it says in this book, right? It says here the Fulani. The Fulani is a large tribe found in areas from Arabia to all countries across the area called Africa to Senegal. They are Arabs, listen, they are Arabs descended from Uqba, the companion of the Prophet Muhammad. Now, look, if that is true, guys, right there, right? Why are they so involved in spreading Islam, and why are they the so-called first Muslims? Because they are. They brought that with them. They are descendants of who? Uqba, the companion of the Prophet Muhammad. Come on, man. Look at that. There is a disagreement, however, as to which Uqba they descend from. Uqba ibn Nāfi or Uqba ibn Amir. Most people say they are descended from Uqba ibn Nāfi el-Fihri, who was the Arab tribe of Quraysh. Others say that they are descended from Uqba ibn Amaid ibn Qais, who was from the Arab tribe of Ansar from the Yemen. Okay, here we go again, right? You see all the connections, right? It is important that readers realize that the Arab armies that left the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century to spread Islam. What did the Fulani, Fulbe, Torodbe, what are they proud of? Spreading Islam, right? In West Africa. Also went to the area called West Africa. Both Uqbas are known to have been in the region of West Africa. Uqba ibn Nāfi conquered the land of Takrur. The land of Takrur, you see? That's where the Torodbe, the Fulbe, and Fulani say they originate. So Uqba ibn Nāfi conquered the land of Takrur, area of Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, etc., and Ghana. El-Ghanimi says, historical facts confirm that Guinea, which was part of the Islamic Empire of Ghana, submitted to the Islamic invasion during the time of Uqba ibn Nāfi, okay? That's written in the year 55 of the Hijra Islamic calendar. All right, so all these old sources, what I'm trying to show you guys, the oldest of sources tell you the facts, is the primary sources. Everything else is added conjecture, biases of people out of African theories. Okay, they're telling you right here. And that's the source. He got the footnote. Literally. And when I go to his footnotes, I do see the sources, guys. Okay? Continue. It says, when Uqba ibn Nāfi reached the Atlantic Ocean during his spreading of Islam in the area called West Africa, he entered the waters of the Atlantic, raised his sword and said, I swear by Allah, if I knew that there were people behind this sea, I would go to them and fight them in the path of Allah. Behind this sea, how he's trying to go to America? What you talking about, man? Muhammad el-Gharabi says, right, again, primary sources, Uqba ibn Amir ibn Qais conquered under the command of Amir ibn el-As, the town of Gadamis, which was the gate of eastern Niger in 662 AD. And in the following year, he conquered Wadan and Kawad, which are in West Africa. And he was victorious in the area. All right? He had a holy war conquest in the area. Ibn Adhari el-Marakachi says that in the second campaign in West Africa, Uqba ibn Amir ibn Qais descended from Morocco and reached Ghana through Wadan and built mosques there. So as you can see, both Uqbas were in the area called West Africa. One of them was the ancestor of the Fulani, okay? And hence the forefather of the so-called Black Americans. Now see, this author does the same thing, starts to hijack. We're talking about history. You see how you don't have a source for that. Like, there's no slave ships, guys. The Cambridge History of Africa says, the gradual infiltration of Fulani from the West had begun well before 1600 and was by the end of the 18th century strong enough to overthrow most of the established states of Hausaland and almost Mandara, Agirmi, and Borno as well. Fulani legends of origin, which attach their descent to Uqba ibn Nāfi of Arabia, say that this movement arose from a desire to return to Mecca, and that the Fulani accordingly traveled slowly east through groups were constantly breaking away to follow their own purposes. Dr. Abdel Fattah el-Ghanimi says, concerning the origin of the Fulani, they say that they are an Arab people from Arab origin. They, like many African tribes, say that their origin is from the Arabs. All right? It's not me saying, they say. They say. They, the Fulani, say that their ancestor, Uqba, the son of Nafi el-Ifiri, the Quraishi, or Uqba, the son of Amir, married the daughter of the king of the Torodbe tribe, right? This is what we're talking about, the Torodbe. This is how it connects to who? The descendants of Esau. Listen, the descendants of Esau and the daughter of Ishmael. And they are, again, a branch of the aforementioned Mandingo. He's saying that those Turubes who really, they will come from Yemen. So I guess why he's saying why they're related to the Mandingo. Remember the Gangara and all these other people that the Mandingo come from, they're also coming from that area of Arabia. So, that's why they're kind of saying all that. And had 4 sons. They say that the Fulani people are from the offspring of these 4 sons, okay? We're going to get into that a little bit more deeper. And one of his poems, Sheikh Abdullah ibn Fudio, the brother of Uthman ibn Fudio, the famous 18th century Islamic reformer who fought jihad in the area now known as Nigeria, said, and Uqba, the ancestor of the Fulani, is from the Arabs, okay? Is from the Arabs. He said that in the 1700s, okay? He said that in the 1700s. The Encarta Encyclopedia says, there, the Fulani's Fulbe language is closely related to the languages of Senegal, suggesting the possibility that their ancestors migrated from the Middle East through North Africa to Senegal. By the 10th century, they had adopted a new language in Senegal and begun to spread eastward, reaching present-day Nigeria by about the 14th century. The Cambridge History of Africa says, oral traditions in the Sahara and the Sudan seek direct association with Uqba ibn Nāfi, the general who led the Arab troops to the Maghreb, Al-Aqsa example to the farthest Maghreb or farthest west, the territory now known as Morocco, to reach the Sea of Darkness, the Atlantic, the Sea of Darkness, you couldn't cross it at that time, in the west, and the Sea of Sand, the Sahara, in the south. According to some traditions, Uqba continued his raids as far as the frontiers of the Sudan. Fulani traditions describe Uqba as the leader of their migration from the northeast, okay? That is the leader of their migration. That's in the Cambridge History of Africa, Volume 2. You see their sources, guys, right? All right, so we're going to go back to that other article. Bankore, Institute of Islamic African Studies International. The autobiography of Alpha Umar ibn Sayyid Turidi, an anthropological evidence of the rights for self-determination of enslaved African Muslims, okay? So we were at the part, right, where they were telling us the origin of the Torodbe from Esau, a son of Esau, and a daughter of Ishmael, right? So we left up right here where he was saying one of his Torodbe teachers in the Republic of the Sudan, Bashir ibn Ahmad ibn Modi Abdu, in his An-Nasab wa Shad, attempted to clarify this discrepancy in the following story when he related the story of the Torodbe encounter with the armies of the companions of Muhammad. The companions of Muhammad. Guys, listen. The Torodbe said to them, we have recognized the truth and we will adhere to it. Then the armies of the companions waged war against the Sironkule. And when they intended to depart, the leader of the Torodbe said, you came to us with the religion while we were ignorant. Therefore, leave with us someone who can teach us. They then left behind Uqba ibn Amir. Some say it was Uqba ibn Nāfi, which is the correct view. He settled with them and taught them the religion and the divine law, Sharia. Then the leader of the Torodbe married his daughter, okay, Bajemanga, to Uqba. To Uqba. There you go, Uqba, right? They sent from Uqba, who's the companion of Muhammad. Come on now, the Torodbe, just like we just read in that other book, right? So it says, Junaid cites that the Torodbe migrated to the west until they reached the lands of Futa Toro. He further explains that when Uqba ibn Nāfi, so remember, these are the descendants of Esau and Ishmael's daughter, so Esau's son and Ishmael's daughter, when they had gone all the way to Futa Toro, right? This was supposedly with the Fulani, in West Africa had come out of, but we know better, right? He further explains that when Uqba ibn Nāfi led the armies of the companions of Muhammad across North Africa in 675 CE during Amir Ibn al-As rule of Egypt, he established the great learning center of Qayrawan. He then moved southward to Gadamis, the lands of the Berber, the Sus al-Aqsa, Widan, and from there he led his armies as far as the frontiers of Sudan, where he encountered the people of Takur. That's where they had settled, these Torodbe. You see what's going on, right? According to Wasidi Junaid, the Amir, leader of the Torodbe, married his daughter, whose name was Bajimanka, to Uqba ibn Nāfi. Okay, they married. They made a union. And she soon gave birth to 4 sons, Da'atu, Nasa, Waya, and Wa Araba. Look at that. Wa Arabia, Araba, Arab, Araba. Okay? And these are supposed to be the progenitors of the Fulani. Okay, here you go, the real makeup. You see, guys, not original to Africa. Here, Wasidi Junaid demonstrated that the emergence of the Torodbe was from among the Fulbe people because of a merger with the Arabs. A merger with the Arabs, the Fulbe. He implies that their descent from Uqba ibn Nāfi gave them their militant Islamic outlook. That's why they spread Islam and they were the first Muslims. Listen, this is why it's got to make sense. They don't tell you. They tell you, they try to make you think that it was a different type of people that came and invaded the local indigenous Africans and made them all convert to Islam. But these are the actual people that came and brought Islam with them and then spread it. That was their job. That's what they were doing. Okay, especially Uqba ibn Nāfi. Okay, so this is through that union the Torodbe became, right? And through that union, it gave them their militant Islamic outlook and made them more sedentary than the rest of the Fulbe. The Torodbe were known for not herding cattle, as is the custom of the remainder of the Fulbe. Okay, so the ones that didn't mix with Urbe or part of that, they just stayed being the original Fulbe and, cattle pastors and all that. And for taking up the profession of Islam, similar to the Sawaya clerical groups among the Tuareg and Berber. It is not surprising that both the Sawaya and the Torodbe claim descent from Uqba ibn Nāfi, all right? Future video, we got the Sawaya too, coming from the same people in Yemen, all right? And that both ethnic groups initially acted as clients to more militant ethnic groups around them. Finally, Sheikh Bashir ibn Ahmad gives a summary of the identity construct of the Torodbe Fulbe people when he says, the Fula Niyum, as we said previously, are Arabs, okay? Arabs from the direction of their ancestor Uqba. The Arabs are originally from Ishmael ibn Ibrahim. Remember that when talking about pure Arabs, Joktan's descendants, right? Joktan, Yoruba, Jarub, he spoke the original Arab language. Remember, his wasn't confused because he separated, right? Eber, his dad, his grandfather, Eber, separated, right? His language didn't get confused. And so, yeah, these people probably eventually mixed with the descendants of Ishmael and Esau and all these people, yeah, becoming known as so-called Arabs. But who was the pure Arabs, right? From the direction of their paternal uncles, the Turudija are from Rum, listen, the son of Esau, Rum, son of Isaac, son of Abraham. And from the direction of Nasmat, the mother of Rum, okay, Nasmat, who is she? She too is from Ishmael, son of Abraham. Upon him and our prophet be blessings and peace. The identity construct of the Torodbe Fulbe thus arrives at its origin, where they descend from the sacred line of Abraham, from his 2 sons Ishmael and Isaac, all right, through Esau, not through Jacob, right? The Torodbe further amalgamated their line back into the line of the source house of Ishmael, to whom the last messenger and prophet would be sent, the house of Quraysh, all right? Isn't that something, right? Like, you see? Their pure makeup, their the true origin, right? This assured them the right to self-rule and independence and the right of autonomous leadership among the Muslims. The identity construct of the Torodbe, being as it is connected to the Abrahamic line, includes the blessings of the covenant, but also comprises the promise of affliction. This is a reflection on the concept of the tried stone and the concept of sacrifice that is so essential in the identity construct of the Abrahamic tradition. This was basically what I wanted to show you, their makeup here in this article, right? This is from the Fulani people themselves, is what he was telling you earlier, right? So we do another article from the same institute, the Sankore Institute of Islamic African Studies International. Not sure if this is a real place, if it's just an online thing, but the sources and what he's saying here can be verified. Now, the title is The Lost and Found Children of Abraham in Africa and the American Diaspora. So we dodged the hijack with the American, but we know in Africa, this is what we're here for. Like he's showing the sources for that. I wanted to start in this part. It says building on the Abrahamic line signification, right? So meaning they're coming out of, Ishmael in two ways and Esau, right? That's coming out of Abraham, right? Building on the Abrahamic line signification, Abdullahi Dan Fuduye traces the Torodbe to Arum, who was a descendant of both Isaac and Ishmael, the two sons of Abraham, consequently assuring for his ethnicity a complete fulfillment of the covenant given by the Creator to Abraham. A little further down, it says, there is a discrepancy regarding the above-mentioned Arum, descendant of Esau. Was Arum his real name or a honorific title? In the An Nasab wa Ansar, another name is given for the son of Esau, son of Isaac, which raises the question of authenticity, the text says. Now, guys, before we continue, I just want to go ahead and go to Esau's genealogy real quick, right? This is from the 1611 King James Bible version, right? And they have a lot of genealogical tables. Now, this is Esau, as you guys see here. And these are some of the sons. You guys can see Timah, Eliphaz, Ruel, and more right here, right? There's more sons right here. So Ruel, Eliphaz, Timah, Omar. So Al-Arum, right? We don't see the one they're naming Al-Arum. So this is kind of what he's saying. So let's go back. Now, these are the sons again, Timah, Eliphaz, Ruel, and these other ones right here. So going back, it says, so the text says he's saying, there's some discrepancy. It says, it is said regarding the lineage of the Fulani in the Hassan el-Muhadira of As-Suyuti. They are traced back to Imram ibn Fulan ibn el-Esau ibn Ishaq. It says that in Taj el-Uruz, the origin is from the Tuur, a nation from the blacks in the lands of the far west, all right? So remember who founded the Trakur people, right? So it's all linking up. Now he says, was this Fulan the same as Arum? If so, then the discrepancy is removed. The name Fulan in Arabic means so-and-so. Like when you want to obscure a particular person's name, you say, for example, Ra'aytu Fulanan. I saw so-and-so. So that's kind of funny because in Spanish, guys, I didn't know this. In Spanish or in Costa Rica, I don't know in other Spanish countries, we say fulano. Aquel fulano, like when we're not mentioning somebody's name, exactly the same way. That's crazy. Wow. All the way over here in Costa Rica. El fulano aquel, fulano. Oh, wow. Did the above chronicler designate Arum as Fulan, so-and-so, because he did not know his real name? Or was Fulan his real name and Arum an honorific title, like, for example, Fulan Arum? If the name Arum was an Arabization of the biblical name Re'ul, you see that? Arum, Re'ul, mentioned as the son of Esau in Genesis, then it would explain the connection of this family with Musa, Moses, and Mount Sinai. So Re'ul, huh? Re'ul. That's interesting, right? Because, so Re'ul, right? Re'ul, again, is a biblical figure whose name means friend of God or God is friend. He is mentioned in several contexts within the Old Testament, primarily in the book of Genesis and the book of Exodus. Re'ul is associated with the Midianites and is linked to the family of Moses, right? Now, remember, they're going all the way, their story is leading them to Moses, right? Playing a significant role in the early narratives of the Israelites. So Re'ul is identified as a Midianite priest and the father of Zipporah. What becomes the wife of Moses? You see, Re'ul is what? A son of Esau. A son of Esau. Esau, Re'ul, right here to the right. You guys see? Re'ul, right here to the right. Now, check this out, guys. Remember they said they married a son of Esau with a daughter of Ishmael. So Esau actually married a daughter of Ishmael, guys. If you didn't know, it says Mahalath was, according to the Bible, the third wife of Esau, daughter of Ishmael. All right, daughter of Ishmael and sister of Nabaioth. Esau took Mahalath from the house of Ishmael to be his wife after seeing that his Canaanite wives, Basemath and Judith, displeased his father Isaac. Okay, so what happened with the union of this daughter of Ishmael with Esau? Esau sought this union with a non-Canaanite in an effort to reconcile his relationship with his parents, namely with his father Isaac, whose blessing he sought. However, there is no record of his parents' approval for the union of Esau and Mahalath. Now, what happened? They had a son, right? She bore a son, Ruel. Ruel. That's what we're talking about, right? Ruel. Ruel, right? Right. Ruel, the son of Esau. And as it says here, if the name Arum was an Arabization of the biblical name Reuel, mentioned as the son of Esau in Genesis, then it would explain the connection of this family with Musa, Moses, and Mount Sinai. You guys see, they carried this tradition all these years, some relationship with Moses. Because remember, Reuel had a daughter named Zipporah who married Moses. And the whole Mount Sinai thing, and then going Mount Sinai where in America. Hey, if these people anciently left America, you know, that's okay. But they seem to have ended up in that region of Yemen somehow, right there in Yemen. Reuel was an Edomite king, right? They eventually migrated. And where do horses and camels come out of? Remember, camels came out of North America. So they say camels and all these pure camels came out of Yemen and Arabia. How did they get there? How did they get there? Camels. Maybe the people themselves migrated out of these same people we're showing you right now. I'm just theorizing here. Somehow the camels got there, so people must have, this is the true old world, the oldest land, right? This is the true Canaan. This is Mount Sinai was over here, guys. That's a volcano. So we're saying these people possibly out of America, just like we know many nations came out of America, right? Noah, all these people, right, came out of America, right? Where's gopher wood, right? Eventually, they have to migrate out of here and spread to the rest of the world, right? So it seems like these people ended up in Yemen. A lot of these people ended up in Yemen, right? Before they ended up in Africa. So having posited their historical consciousness in ancient history within the fountainhead of the Abrahamic line, the Torodbe went a little further as to give themselves legitimacy within the Islamic ethos as well, according to the Nasab el-Falata, the lineage of the Fulbe. Authenticity of the Torodbe Fulbe identity was given on the tongue of the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad. May Allah bless him and grant him peace. Here, a clear description of the inner spiritual character, outer attire, and Arabic origin of the Torodbe are given, which distinguishes them from other ethnicities. The wearing of the white turban has been a mark of honor for its scholars and later became a social custom that had political significance, especially during the 18th century jihads in the central Bilal Sudan. Dr. Joseph Jaje underscores the communicative capacity of clothing as a highly visible instrument in the expression of cultural identity. Clothing and outward attire distinguishes a people and allows them to project their identity to the rest of the world. The alleged description given of the Torodbe by Prophet Muhammad, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, affords them the legitimacy and authenticity essential for collective solidarity and political sovereignty. According to the Nasab el-Falata, the Torodbe embrace Islam completely and scholarship spread among them. According to the above Arabic sources, there is incongruity regarding the personage of Uqba ibn Nāfi. The above-mentioned source names the ancestor of the Torodbe as Uqba ibn Jasid, son of Amir, son of Muad, son of Magij, son of Salim, son of Sa'id, and son of Muda. In the Dabt Multagatat of Wasiri Junaid, he cites Uqba ibn Nāfi as being the common ancestor of the Torodbe. So it says Junaid cites that the Torodbe migrated to the west until they reached the lands of Futatoro. All right. He further explained that when Uqba ibn led the armies of the companions of Muhammad across North Africa, we got this earlier, right? This is when they meet up and they become one people. Okay, here was Sidi Junaid demonstrated that the emergence of the Torodbe were from among the Fulbe people because of the merger with the Arabs. He implies that their descent from Uqba ibn Nāfi gave them the militant Islamic outlook. So we got the whole drop. All right. So I just wanted to go ahead and show that, possibly they talking about Re'ul, right, the son of Esau, and that whole mixture with the daughters of um, Ishmael. Yeah, he's part of Ishmael, right? And then also he might have married another daughter of Ishmael, and keep it in the family. All right, so that's what they're trying to say, the Arabs, but the pure Arabs, the Yarub, the sons of Joktan, Eber, right? So remember all the past videos, guys, okay? It's here in the website History of Islam, an encyclopedia of Islamic history, right? Historyofislam.com. It says here the Fulani trace their lineage from Uqba ibn Nāfi, the renowned conqueror of North Africa, right? Remember where he's coming from, the companions of Muhammad, right? Shehu Uthman dan Fuduje was therefore a descendant of Uqba ibn Nāfi from his father's side. On his mother's side, listen, he was a Sajid, a descendant of the Prophet through the mom. So it's not just Uqba, right? His mother Sayadatu Hawa was in the lineage of Al-Hassan, son of Fatima binte Prophet Muhammad. All right, you see how close they are also to Muhammad. All right, you guys see that? Fulani, why they spreading Islam so much? Do you guys see? And real quick, the Kano Emirante, the Jihad in Kano, origin of the Fulani, the Kano Chronicles, huh? According to Wasidin, Sagwato Saik Junao, who was the leading authority on Sokoto history during his time, the ancestor of the Toronkawa, right? The Torong are the same as the Torodbe, Turube people, Fulbe, right? The Toronkawa was Rama, son of Esau. Raul referred to Isa in June 1956, who was the son of the prophet Isaac, the son of prophet Abraham. They moved from Sinai and settled at Toro in West Africa, all right, where they got their name of Toronkawa, the people of Toro. Uqba ibn Nāfi, the great Muslim leader, converted them to Islam and married Baju Manga, the daughter of their chief. All right, see? They gave birth to 4 sons, Data, Waioya, Doroba, and Nazi. These were the ancestors of the Fulani and were the first to speak Fulbe language. The language of most of the Toronkawa was Wakori, all right? So you guys see how the story is the same, man. That's the oral tradition, guys. They know where they're from. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. I hope you. I tried to make sure I covered their oral traditions and what it is really saying. Pinpointing the history, right, and the migration. And I hope I did a good job for that. I don't know if all the Fulanis will agree. A lot of them probably want to be just indigenous to Africa. I don't know if they know their whole history. And this is not to disrespect anybody who's from the Fulani people. We just want to go ahead and talk about real history, real migrations, real ancestors, right? Not just stories. These oral traditions are theirs. I didn't make none of this up. So, shout out to the Fulani, man. That's a very deep history, though. You guys saw that deep history they got, right? How it ties them to all these biblical people. Wow. Deep history we have uncovered. And again, coming from out of Africa into Africa. They are not indigenous to Africa. All right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode on the Fulani people. Africans not from Africa. I appreciate you guys sticking around all the way to the end, just hearing me read and learn with me and do the research with me. Appreciate you guys. So descendants of Esau and Ishmael and the companions of Muhammad and actual Fatima, huh? The wife of Muhammad, wow. So you guys see the deep history, right? Again, much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Wow.